to say it.
Come on.
So you can talk the numbers, that's fine. We got the facts. But like Greg said, he's not the activist. He's not SCLC. We fought and died for the right to vote.
That's right.
This country is corrupt.
Right.
It's corrupt and it's not for our people.
Right.
And it comes right down to Georgia and every other state. But we're too relaxed and too afraid to tell the truth.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and politic and bring about a cake and say, let's have some ice cream and everything is all right, and then give you a popsicle. We're talking about the realness of racism.
Yeah.
That's right.
And it's in this country. And it's in this state. And it's in the leadership. And it doesn't matter who the president or who the governor is. It is embedded in the system.
Yeah.
Your hands are tied. I don't care what color you are. So I'm not here to fool around and say who said this and who said that. Where you get the fact, what cross-check this. It's racism.
Yeah. Amen.
You all are not telling the truth if you don't say it on the 6 o'clock news. Racism is being exemplified in its purest in terms of this act. And I have to leave now because I do have to be on another radio station. Yes.
And to the people who haven't been following this as closely, that are sitting at home, that may be a little more skeptical and, just trying to, as you put it, ignore it, how do you tie together for them that this is racially motivated and not just...
It's not a rocket, thank you.
30,000 African Americans have
Step to the
been
mic, please.
30,000 African Americans who are otherwise eligible to vote have been removed. We've had to sue Brian Kemp 4 times in federal court to get those individuals back on the roll. So if you want to say it's not about race, why 300,000 African Americans have been removed. 1.5 million Georgians have been removed. We have a systemic issue that has to be corrected for access to the ballot. It's clear as day. Mr. Palast has the facts. Of course, we have the law. We have the activism, the activists that will address this issue. So that's why it's a racial issue.
Attorney Greg, if race is the criteria upon which they're using to remove people from the voter roll, what would happen if you took race out of election registration?
What would happen if we took race out of election
If they're
registration?
using race as a criterion.
Okay.
And if Mr. Palast is saying
Okay.
that, so if Mr. Palast is saying that Andrew Jones
Yes.
equals a black person,
I got you. Let me try to.
what if you took race out of voter registration? Would that weaken their ability to remove
I understand what
people
you're
based
saying.
on race?
We don't want race to be taken out. We're proud of who we are. We don't want that to mean we're not, in a position where we're saying that we don't want to be identified as African Americans or Hispanic or people of color, even Caucasian. We're saying the template should be we all must work together for what's right. Fairness. You can eliminate color all you want to, but if it's not a change of heart, and you can't legislate that, if you don't have fairness within the process, you can always, it might not be race, well, I don't like the shoes you have on.
That's right.
I know something about it. I don't
But
like
sir,
the tie you wear.
when
Don't
you
remove the ethnicity of people from the category in terms of registration.
I like your analogy, but when you register to vote, you don't say anything about your
We have a
shoes.
question.
So here's my response.
I must leave. Thank you.
My issue is this. My issue is this.
Okay.
Why are we removing people from the roll? Period. Let them self-remove themselves. You can have birth certificates, death certificates that could accomplish this. Why are we purging the roll? That's the main issue. And you can identify certain groups of people merely by their last name because of the history of oppression in this country. The Washingtons, the Jacksons, the individuals who were brought here in the Middle Passage who had been given somebody else's last name, and now they're easily identified. So I hear what you're saying. I wish in a better world we could remove that, but we can't. So my issue is let individuals who don't want to participate in the franchise, do not remove them from the rolls. Let's just make sure everybody's registered, and whoever shows up on election day shows up and exercises the franchise.
Do any of these voter suppression schemes reach the level of criminal charges?
At this point, no. That I know of, as far as the NAACP is concerned, in our 4 previous lawsuits. But we are actively investigating, and if we believe so, we will present it to the authorities for prosecution.
Any other questions, sir?
One last question, now, come on.
So what information do you have, and what information are you still looking for from Kemp's office? I was a little unclear on that.
Okay, very good. And by the way, we did an analysis at Rolling Stone of the entire Georgia list, and we found that it was very highly biased of the cross-check list, that should not be used. And I would also note that of the 27 states that were using cross-check, many are stopping, including Georgia starting now. They've stopped now. But those states that were using it, almost all were GOP controlled. So we're talking race, but race really ends up at the ballot box being a partisan issue. And that is why we are concerned. Only half the states of this country, those that are GOP controlled, use cross-check. Why is any state using it? And you asked now specifically, what do we have, what we don't have? They have refused to officially give us the cross-check lists of 15, 16, and 17, which they must. We know from Kansas that those lists were sent, the voter rolls were sent to Kansas, and we know that Kansas sent back the cross-check list. No games here, Mr. Kemp. Please give us the list you got from Kansas. Second, we want to know exactly who got a postcard, who returned them, and any other documentation regarding why you would use cross-check at all, and other methods. The one thing we want to find out, under the Supreme Court ruling of June, the Supreme Court said you could use a postcard and failure to vote, the contact rule in the past 3 years. But remember, you've already missed 2 elections before. Whether a postcard is a good evidence that you've moved from the state. You cannot be removed for not voting. That is in the NVRA of 1993. It has to be evidence you've moved. We're going to find out if sending people postcards is a good way to find out if people have moved. Our evidence is it is not. So while we are looking mainly at those cross-check names, 106,000 people that were identified originally by cross-check, we're looking at the whole list to see how the entire Georgia program is going. We need, Mr. Kemp, the information, the postcards, who got them, who didn't return them, what type of contacts you've made, what efforts you have made. For example, if people have moved out of Georgia, named Jones, why are they paying Georgia taxes?
Thank you
Why
very
don't
much.
send
Thank
your
you very
own
much.
list? Are there any other key questions? If there's
Mr.
another,
Palast is available for interview.
let me just get this one over. She's been so patient. I'll take one more.
And I was actually just going to ask if Dr. Steele, you started saying, when I asked how did we know it was racism, you started saying it's not rocket science, and then we, got on your factual.
the
So I
fact
just didn't know
being-
if you could finish your thought
Yes,
that you were
thank you,
saying.
thank you. I help people like Greg working with me. I have researchers, and African Americans have lost 53% of black wealth in the last 9, 10 years. What's our black wealth? Our homes. Due to the fact that we can't have access to capital. We can't have entrepreneurship. 140 million people, 140 million go to work every day. 140 million living from check to check. 50 million people, and they're poor people. Poor people. 50 million people can't afford a $250 emergency, like going to the emergency room. Can't afford it. One lady that I heard of from a good friend of mine was in an accident. Her arm was broken. She said, the last thing I want you to not to take me to the hospital, because I don't want them to bill me. I can't pay for it. I'll go home and doctor on myself with my broken arm. That's racism. And it's systemic, as Gerald said, within this system. And we're going to fight it. And you all as reporters have a responsibility to tell the truth about the facts.
That's right.
We can't get loans. I'm a businessman. I own a business in Alabama, as well as being president of SCLC. I cannot get a business loan from a bank. And I have superb credit rating. Why, Charles? Because I'm poor, but not as poor. See, some folks are poor and some are poor. I'm poor. The folks you see around my office are poor. So until we are sensitive, yes we are, till we are sensitive to the needs of poor people and people who've been left out of the process, who happen to be people of color. And y'all tell the facts that it's discriminatory, it's racism, and Dr. King said you can't depend on the government to do the right thing. Because the government is the enemy. Any more questions?
Mr. Briggs had pointed out 300,000 African Americans have been removed from the rolls. Do you know how many whites have been removed from the rolls?
Well, there's been 1.5 million people in general, so we just do the math. And our concern is everybody having access to the franchise. We just want to point out that 300,000 of them African Americans were removed. So the NAACP is in the process of making sure we call each and every person that was removed from the rolls. We have the list as well, and we have been doing that since September to now. We hopefully will get everybody called by October the 9th is the last day to register.
But somebody
Just
could say
very
you
quickly,
removed more whites than African Americans.
Well, two things. Those removed the cross-check list, just so you know. We had an analysis of every single Georgian on the cross-check list, and we published that in Rolling Stone and on Al Jazeera. It is extremely biased against African Americans and especially against Hispanics and Asian Americans. And because they use an algorithm of just first and last names. I want to emphasize that that's how you get matched with someone from another state. First and last name. When that happens, you're going to catch black people, as I said, the history of slavery. You're going to catch Hispanics, history of the conquest. You're going to get Asian Americans, history of their immigration. These groups are thereby targeted. The last thing is using a postcard, the 1950s technology. The chance that a white, older suburban homeowner returns a postcard, according to the census, is about 600% higher than a young renter of color in the inner city. You just send out 2 government postcards, you're going to have more white people returning those cards. It's just that simple. So that the process of designation, the process of using postcards, no email, no notices on the press, nothing. You better re-register, check your registration. None of that. So that's the bias in it. I'm going to say one last thing, and then I'm going to break it up so you can talk to me directly for technical information,
Or some of your other
or
speakers.
any of the other people about the actions taken, or you can speak to the lawyers or the experts by phone. But I want to say, as a public service, whether you buy what we're saying or not, as a public service, please tell people, go to gregpalast.com. That's GREGPALAST. Go to gregpalast.com, put in your first name, your last name, your zip code. We'll send back to you your home address to confirm that you are on Brian Kemp's Purged List. We just put it out last night. We're already getting all kinds of people from all over sending us, my name has been removed. Hispanics, by the way, tend to be the people calling in and or sending notes in. So please, just a public service, whether you agree with us or not, please look up and see whether you've been purged from the voter rolls of Georgia, and you have 1 week to re-register.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Again, Insay Upon, Joe Beasley, Carol Griggs, and of course, Mr. Palast are available for an interview.